The story begins in 1945, during the final days of World War II. Here we see a Japanese fighter plane being piloted by a man named Koichi. Suddenly, the plane develops a technical issue, forcing Koichi to land it on an island. This island happens to have a repair base where all planes are fixed. Koichi requests a mechanic named Tachibana to repair his plane. However, when Tachibana inspects the plane, he finds no actual defect and realizes that Koichi faked the issue to avoid carrying out his final mission. Tachibana confronts Koichi, saying, "I know you made up an excuse to avoid the mission." It turns out Koichi's mission was suicidal, and he decided not to proceed with it. Nervous, Koichi walks away and sits by the sea. A fellow mechanic approaches him and says, "You did the right thing because that mission would have cost you your life." While sitting by the sea, Koichi notices some dead fish floating in the water, which he finds strange but doesn't give much thought to. Night falls and Koichi returns to the base. Suddenly, an emergency alarm goes off, causing everyone to believe they are about to be attacked by the enemy. However, as the searchlights sweep the area, they reveal an enormous creature emerging from the sea, Godzilla. The creature looks terrifying and everyone panics and tries to hide. In the chaos, Tachibana urges Koichi, "You're a fighter pilot. You should get in your plane and attack Godzilla." Reluctantly, Koichi gets into his plane, but as soon as Godzilla comes into view, he becomes paralyzed with fear and is unable to fire his weapons. Seeing this, Tachibana and the others start shooting at Godzilla with their guns, enraging the creature. Godzilla retaliates, killing and throwing people around, even eating some of them. The entire base is destroyed in the rampage. Meanwhile, Koichi remains frozen in his plane, too scared to act. Godzilla moves toward his plane to pick it up. Koichi quickly jumps out of the plane just before Godzilla throws it, causing a massive explosion that leaves Koichi unconscious. The next morning, Koichi regains consciousness to find that all his comrades have been killed, except for Tachibana, who is collecting the bodies in one place. When Tachibana sees Koichi, he angrily says, "If you had attacked Godzilla, our comrades could have been saved." This leaves Koichi heartbroken. The war eventually ends, and all soldiers return to their homes. Koichi also goes back, only to find his home completely destroyed by the war. His neighbor Sumiko sees him and bitterly remarks, "How did you survive the war? You must have hidden to save your life." Sumiko then sorrowfully informs Koichi that a blast killed both his parents and all of her children. Hearing about his parents' death, Koichi is devastated and falls into deep sorrow. A few days later, we see Koichi in a marketplace where police are chasing a girl who had stolen a blanket. The girl has a small child with her, and just then, Koichi comes in front of the girl, and she hands over her baby to him before running away. Koichi takes the baby and starts to leave, but the girl soon comes back to him. Seeing her, Koichi asks for her name, and she introduces herself as Noriko. As Koichi walks away, Noriko follows him to his house and asks to stay the night. Noriko explains to Koichi that she is not married and the baby isn't hers. She reveals that the baby's mother died during a blast and, before passing away, entrusted her child to Noriko. Since Noriko is an orphan, she decided to raise the baby, understanding the pain the child must feel. Koichi tells Noriko that she should leave after dinner, but during their conversation, Noriko falls asleep in his house. The next day, Koichi's neighbor, Sumiko, asks him about Noriko and the baby. Koichi explains the situation, and Sumiko feels pity for the baby. She starts helping Noriko take care of the child and even gives Koichi a bag of rice to ensure the baby has enough food to eat. A year passes, and one day, Koichi informs Noriko that he has been offered a government job. The job involves going into the ocean's depths to find and disarm mines planted by enemies. He tells her that the job pays well. Noriko expresses her concern, saying the work is dangerous, but Koichi replies that it's the only way they can make a living. The next day, Koichi begins his new job. He soon realizes that the government has only provided him with basic equipment and an old boat, despite promising better resources. During this mission, Koichi meets Dr. Kenji, a former Navy scientist who is leading the operation. as well as Captain Seiji and Shiro, who, like Koichi, survived the war. Together, they head out to sea. Seiji explains the details of the work to Koichi. While searching, they spot a mine, and Seiji attempts to shoot it but misses. Koichi takes the gun from Seiji, carefully aims, and successfully destroys the mine with a precise shot, earning everyone's praise. Later that night, Koichi is seen sleeping at home. He dreams of hearing screams outside his house and goes out to find Godzilla killing all the mechanics. He wakes up startled, feeling as though Godzilla had actually killed him that day, and everything since has just been a dream. Panicked, Koichi rushes to Noriko, scaring her. She pushes him away in fear, but Koichi explains that he lost his parents and many comrades during the war, which is why he has such nightmares. Noriko comforts him, offering reassurance. During this time, America conducts a nuclear bomb test in the ocean, causing a nuclear blast. Godzilla is present in the area, and the nuclear radiation makes him even more powerful. Sometime later, Koichi is seen earning good money from his job. He buys a motorcycle and repairs his home. One night, Dr. Kenji, Seiji, and Shiro visit Koichi's house for dinner. They all assume Noriko is Koichi's wife. Noriko, however, begins to explain that she is not. Koichi's companions tease him, saying he should marry Noriko and settle down to create a happy family after the baby calls him father. However, Koichi refuses. One day, Noriko gets a job and tells Koichi that she wants to become independent. She explains that after she leaves, Koichi should marry a good woman and start a happy family. She also mentions that their neighbor Sumiko is ready to take care of the baby, so neither of them needs to worry about her. Meanwhile, everyone learns that due to America's nuclear tests, Godzilla has become extremely powerful and is heading toward Japan, expected to arrive in just a week. The next day, Koichi goes to work with his team, where they find a large American ship completely destroyed in the sea. Koichi notices dead fish floating in the water and realizes that Godzilla is nearby and was likely responsible for the ship's destruction. Koichi informs his team about Godzilla, causing Shiro to panic as their small boat stands no chance against the creature. They consider fleeing, but Godzilla suddenly emerges from the water and moves toward them. Dr. Kenji and Koichi throw mind bombs into the water to try and harm Godzilla, but the creature is unaffected. Koichi then shoots at Godzilla with a machine gun, but the bullets also fail to injure him. Kenji throws another bomb into the water, but the detonator wire breaks. Koichi attempts to shoot the bomb to detonate it, and as the bomb drifts near Godzilla's mouth, it explodes from Koichi's shot. The explosion severely damages one of Godzilla's eyes and a large portion of his mouth. However, within moments, Godzilla's wounds heal, and in a fit of rage, he climbs out of the water and attacks their boat. At the same time, the Japanese army arrives and opens heavy fire on Godzilla. The barrage of gunfire angers the creature even more, prompting it to attack the army's ship. Despite sustaining heavy injuries from the relentless gunfire, Godzilla retreats into the sea but quickly resurfaces and destroys the army's ship in an instant. After this, Godzilla roars and starts heading toward Tokyo, where Noriko has just started her new job. Later, Koichi is seen in a hospital, recovering from his injuries. Upon returning home, Noriko is heartbroken to see his condition and questions him about why he always seems so troubled and why he doesn't share anything with her. She asks if he considers her unimportant. In response, Koichi shows her pictures of the dead mechanics and tells her that they all died because of him. He says that if he had killed Godzilla that day, he could have saved their lives. Hearing this, Noriko consoles him, explaining that it wasn't his fault. She tells him that he is only human and it is natural to feel fear in such situations. The next day, Godzilla reaches the outskirts of Tokyo, where the army ships try to stop him with attacks, but they have no effect. Koichi, still at home, hears on the radio that Godzilla is advancing toward Tokyo. Concerned for Noriko's safety, he becomes anxious. Meanwhile, Godzilla enters Tokyo and begins wreaking havoc. During the destruction, Godzilla notices a train. Godzilla lifts a train and begins to destroy it. Noriko is also on this train and jumps into the water to save herself. Meanwhile, Godzilla continues destroying everything in its path. Some news reporters standing on a rooftop attempt to take pictures of Godzilla, but he approaches them and destroys the building, killing them all. Koichi arrives in Tokyo and finds Noriko. He starts to take her with him, but the army arrives and begins attacking Godzilla with tanks. However, their attacks have no effect. Suddenly, Godzilla's glowing fins emerge and nuclear lights start emanating from his mouth. This results in a nuclear blast that destroys a large part of the city. During this chaos, Godzilla directs a wave of nuclear energy toward Noriko. In a desperate attempt to save Koichi, Noriko pushes him away and gets caught in the wave herself, dying instantly. Koichi falls to his knees, devastated by Noriko's death. As Godzilla leaves the area, Koichi screams in anger and grief. Later, the news reports that 30,000 people were killed and 20,000 buildings were destroyed in Godzilla's attack. Everyone mourns Noriko's death. During this time, Dr. Kenji tells Koichi that the government has selected people like them to kill Godzilla. Koichi and his companions attend a meeting called by an army captain. The captain informs them that they will receive no external help and must work together to kill Godzilla. Kenji shares his plan, explaining that they need to lure Godzilla above the deepest part of the sea. They would attach gas cylinders to different parts of his body, dragging him 1,500 meters deep into the ocean, where he would likely die. Koichi asks if the plan is guaranteed to work, but Kenji admits that he cannot guarantee it. Kenji then shares a backup plan. After the gas cylinders drag Godzilla underwater, large balloons would emerge from the cylinders, causing Godzilla to rise back to the surface suddenly. He wouldn't be able to withstand the water pressure, and they could attack him with bombs to finish him off. While some people disagree with Kenji's plan and leave, most agree to support it, united in their desire to save their country. Later, Koichi and his three companions sit at a bar, where Kenji explains how they will trap Godzilla. He reveals that they will play a recording of Godzilla's roar to lure him back to Tokyo and into their trap. Koichi suggests that he needs a fighter plane to attack Godzilla from above and distract him from the team. Kenji mentions that he has a fighter plane, but it requires repairs by a skilled mechanic. Hearing this, Koichi thinks of Tachibana, a mechanic. However, he doesn't have Tachibana's address, so he begins sending letters to every possible address, hoping one will reach him. One day, Koichi is suddenly attacked and knocked unconscious. When he regains consciousness, he finds Tachibana standing in front of him. It turns out Tachibana himself had attacked Koichi to bring him in. Tachibana had brought Koichi home after finding him unconscious. Tachibana was angry about the letters Koichi had sent him, in which Koichi blamed Tachibana for the deaths of the people on the island. Koichi had intentionally written such letters to provoke Tachibana and make him come to meet him. Koichi then explains his plan to kill Godzilla, stating that he wants to correct his mistakes and save the lives of everyone in the country. Hearing this, Tachibana agrees to help him. The group begins preparing for their mission to kill Godzilla. Kenji suggests that everyone spend one last night with their families, as they might not survive the mission. Kenji and Seiji try to convince Shiro not to join the mission because he is already injured, but Shiro insists on coming along. Meanwhile, Tachibana works on repairing the plane. At home, Koichi receives a painting from the little girl in which she has drawn Koichi and Noriko. After giving him the painting, the girl starts crying, saying she misses Noriko. Koichi, also feeling sad, puts her to bed and leaves a letter next to her before leaving the house. The next morning, when the girl wakes up, she gives the letter to Sumiko. Inside the letter, Sumiko finds some money and a note asking her to take care of the child. Sumiko realizes that Koichi has gone on a mission from which there is little chance of returning alive. Later, Tachibana informs Koichi that he has repaired the plane, replaced some parts, and fitted it with weapons. To motivate Koichi, Tachibana reminds him of how Godzilla killed their mechanic colleagues and Noriko, saying they must kill Godzilla to avenge their deaths. The next day, the team begins their mission. They place a device in the water to lure Godzilla with its sound. Godzilla arrives in the city, picks up a ship, and throws it. Koichi then flies the plane close to Godzilla to distract him, while Kenji instructs everyone to proceed with the planned operations. Koichi fires at Godzilla to divert his attention, causing Godzilla to chase the plane toward the section of the sea where Kenji has set a trap. Godzilla sees two empty ships in the water and attacks them with his nuclear breath, causing an explosion that also injures him. Meanwhile, Kenji and the others begin dropping cylinders into the water and attaching them to Godzilla's body using cables. Koichi continues to fire at Godzilla to keep his attention away from Kenji's ships. Just as Godzilla is about to attack with his nuclear breath again, the cylinders pull him underwater. However, this does not kill him. Kenji then inflates the balloons attached to the cylinders to bring Godzilla back to the surface, but Godzilla destroys the balloons. Kenji and his team try to pull Godzilla out of the water using the cranes on their ships, but one crane collapses. At that moment, Shiro arrives with additional help and assists Kenji in pulling Godzilla out of the water. Finally, Godzilla emerges from the water, severely injured. However, he prepares to use his nuclear breath again, signaling another wave of destruction. As Godzilla begins to rise out of the water, his body glows completely blue. At that moment, Koichi flies his plane directly into Godzilla's mouth, causing a massive explosion that kills Godzilla. However, the explosion also costs Koichi his life, leaving everyone deeply saddened. Just then, everyone's attention turns to the sky, where they see Koichi descending with a parachute. It turns out that Tachibana had insisted Koichi survive and had fitted a parachute into the plane's seat. Everyone salutes Koichi as he lands safely. When Koichi reaches the shore, Sumiko approaches him and gives him a letter. After reading it, Koichi quickly rushes to the hospital, where it is revealed that Noriko is still alive. Overjoyed, Koichi sees her and lays his head in her lap, crying with relief. Meanwhile, under the ocean, a piece of Godzilla's flesh is shown regenerating, hinting that Godzilla is coming back to life. This indicates that Godzilla is not completely dead. With this revelation, the movie ends. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for subscribing.